What do the most successful writers of all time have to say about writing your first draft? Well, I'm going to tell you in a second, but first a story. I've been writing stories and books for over 20 years. Usually they start like this. I have an idea in my head, I sit down, I start the first chapter, the first page, the first paragraph, the first sentence, the first word, and I'm focused on prose. I want to make sure every sentence is structured correctly and that my paragraphs look full, that I'm writing nice sentences, that I'm not starting every sentence with the same word, and I start focusing on all these technical things immediately. What happens? Eventually, my story runs out of steam, or I quit, or I move on. There's a reason for that. The reason is that instead of focusing on the creative elements of my story and getting it from here, my empty cranium, onto a piece of tree that's been sliced thin or onto a word processor, I'm instead being weighed down by the technical elements of punctuation, sentence structure, and prose, making sure that I say things correctly. So, what do I say is the best way to write your first draft? Do you want to be successful in your first draft? Here's what you should do. And yes, you should write a first draft. Do not write one draft and then publish it to Amazon. I'm going to tell you this, you will not sell books. Somebody will read it, they'll say this is full of typos, they'll quit your story before they go anywhere. So we're going to write a first draft, we're going to write a second draft, we might even write more drafts than that. But the first draft, I'm going to tell you what two very successful authors have to say about that. Okay? I'm going to save you the trouble of reading their books and watching their YouTube videos and hearing them speak about it. The two famous authors are Stephen King and James Patterson. Stephen King first, okay? Here's what Stephen King says about writing your first draft. The first draft you write with the door closed. The second draft you write with the door open. Meaning, the first draft is chaos, bananas. Put everything down on the page that you can. Don't worry about sentence structure. Don't worry about formatting, paragraphs. Don't worry if you just introduced a character on page 6 that you should have introduced on page 1. You'll get to that later. Writers are not made in the first draft. Writers are made through the editing and revisioning process. That separates the person that you know their whole life has been saying that they're going to write the great American novel but never do, and the person that actually writes and publishes a book. So, first draft is just brain dump. Brain dump. Now, James Patterson, another successful writer and who has a funny pseudo feud with Stephen King. He added another layer to this which I really like. I think the word processor works. I'm getting text messages because I'm just that popular, because they know I'm recording and it's like, oh, this would be a great way to interrupt your videos. James Patterson. James Patterson has a really interesting way of doing this that I like, and I think it's going to help you. So, number one, first draft, we're going to what? Write with the door closed, physically, and, it's sort of symbolic as well. Second thing we're going to do, I want you to put the word processor aside. Let's call that our second draft tool. In fact, there's actually a writing program called Final Draft. Let's save that for the final draft, okay? Here's the first draft, and you're going to hate this. You're going to hate this, but I promise you if you try it. Here's where you write your first draft. Yellow legal pads, mechanical pencil, longhand writing. I know that feels terrible, but let me show you how it works. I had an idea for a nonfiction book that I was thinking about writing, but I wasn't sure if I had enough content in my head to write a book about it. So I was sitting in an airport, and I wrote down just some key things that I wanted to talk about in no particular order. Then, I took that list. On page 2, I made kind of a chapter outline of some things that I wanted to talk about. Then, I did my brain dump. And look what happened when I was sitting at an airport for 4 hours. Ready? Ooh, I wrote like 25 pages just sitting there. You know why? Because I didn't do one paragraph break. This would be very, very hard to read, and you would never want to publish this. It's full of grammatical errors, spelling errors, all that, but it's a brain dump. Pencil and paper is a really, really effective way to do a brain dump. I'm not thinking about what word I'm starting my sentences with, how long my sentences are, if I'm writing run-ons or fragment sentences, or if I need to start a new paragraph or what punctuation that should be. It's just brain dump. And I sat at an airport, I wrote 25 pages here on yellow legal pads. And the other thing I'd say is, look, double spaced. So when I go back, and I am going to go back, I can start making notes. This is stupid. This should be a new paragraph. This should be this. This sentence doesn't make any sense. That's how you're going to want to do this. So let's take the two great authors who don't like each other, Stephen King and James Patterson, and since we have no ties to either of them, unless you're Stephen King's son, Joe King, I think, or Joe Hill. I think he's not Joe King because he didn't want to be joking. Joe Hill, or whoever his other son is, or you're James Patterson's kids, if he has kids. I don't know if he does. But you're going to take the best of both worlds, and we're going to make our own system, and that is this. Draft 1, yellow legal pads, mechanical pencil, brain dump. Just write down some scenes that you think would be interesting, because those are the way we start. We never start with, what would be a really great intro for a story? We think, I want to have a murderer who blah, 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 doesn't know he's the Count of Monte Cristo, whatever. Write that down. It might take me 6,000 words to get to that point, but that's what I want to get to. So I'm going to just brain dump those ideas down. Then I'm going to start structuring kind of an outline of like, okay, it'll start in this area. This will be Act 2. This will be Act 3. And then close the door, brain dump. That's how you write your first draft. Don't use word processors. Don't use Microsoft Word, Scrivener, Final Draft, any of those tools. Start with yellow legal pads. You can buy these from Costco in a box set. And this is the mechanical pencil that I like. It's called the Papermate Sharp Writer. Get yourself a box of these. They're super, super cheap, and you can throw them away and not feel bad. You're killing a small amount of baby seals and seagulls when you do that, but it's okay. We're in California, and we're not using straws anymore, so I'm making up the difference of the lives we're saving with straws now by throwing away these pencils when I'm done with them. But get a box of these, write your first draft, and then tell me what a genius I am and what a great idea I had here. Enjoy. Go, writers. Go write right now. Write.